Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone, and welcome to the SFL Podcast presented to you exclusively by 8 p.m. Music through the power of YouTube. I am your host, Jack Brown, and alongside me here, we have the full round table at it once again, heading straight into the offseason. We got Ryan Karpinski, Assistant Director of Player Personnel here at the SFL. We got Ramos Lynn, owner of the Mexico City Aztecs. And we have Rob Roby, defensive coordinator over at the London Knights. And then you have me, the lowly social media director. But before we get into anything off-season related, for those who apparently weren't checking into the championship game but were listening to the podcast, sure, hey, things happen. The Alaska Storm had become the first ever team in SFL history to repeat as champions. This time going 15-0, and yeah, they essentially just dominated all of 2018. There's no other way to put it or sugarcoat it or do anything like that. It's just they annihilated the entire league throughout 2018, only losing to the San Antonio Vaqueros, and San Francisco. I don't know if I could talk trash about San Francisco anymore now that we have like that large piece of, I guess you could say retrospect with us. Would that be the right word?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that'd be a good word to use.
You see, I know how to English language, okay? I have good English. Man, but so the Storm become the first team ever to do that sort of back-to-back thing. That sort of back-to-back thing, yes. How do you guys really how does this sort of dominance from a team like Alaska and Tallahassee, really both of them, how do you think that has really impacted the league as a whole throughout these last two seasons? And especially coming into season 12 and maybe even season 13.
I mean, it's got a really big impact. I mean, you saw after they won the championship this last season, you saw a couple teams go over to a non-contract running back with trying to fill out the rest of their roster with some other talent. Um, and then also not to discount Tallahassee. I mean, I know we're talking about Alaska, but not to discount Tallahassee. You saw a few teams invest more in their defensive linemen also. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's definitely a copycat league, and I feel Alaska is going to be at the top of the food chain there. Um, at least for next season, you're probably going to see some more teams attempt probably to copy their build a little bit more. Um, but as I've seen a lot of coaches say, you need to have the right kind of game plan to be able to fully utilize those new players and the new personnel that you have. So it's there's definitely a learning curve, but it's a pretty big impact.
Yeah, and
It's gonna be
yeah.
something that I feel that it's gonna be felt for a few seasons at least.
Yeah, I mean, some teams have really succeeded under that sort of new formula. Meanwhile, others, players at London, uh, when trying to copycat that sort of formula, have just this season at least just generally fell flat on their face through the whole thing. I mean, not discount London's potential. It's just that you know it didn't work out, and they even had to move some personnel around throughout the season. And really, there's still going to be teams in the SFL that stick their guns. There's still going to be like your Mexico Cities of the world who essentially just run the same general build over and over again, and don't even run with like D tackles and all that sort of stuff. That has essentially become a standard within the SFL. But apart from that, really, we got some interesting times ahead of us here in the SFL. Season 12 is going to be a very interesting off season. We're going to see.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting time to see how the builds are going to be kind of affected based on these last two seasons and this one especially with Alaska going undefeated.
Yeah, but it's not it's undefeated with, I guess you could say, a bit of an asterisk,
Yeah, I
since
mean they
they clearly.
weren't they were undefeated, but they were clearly not untested. They had some really close games, especially like the last 3 4 weeks. The last week going into the playoffs, and then all three of their playoffs games or all the rest of their playoff games were really pretty tightly contested and could have gone either way.
Yeah, especially I mean, even the championship game, Tallahassee was up at the half. The semifinal against Houston. I'm not going to talk about that because I've heard that is a very sensitive subject for Ryan.
It was so close.
Sioux Falls, again, that's just a great rivalry in the SFL. So I think them meeting the playoffs would have been inevitably fantastic. And, the last week of the season, having to come back against Las Vegas of all teams, that just feels weird. You'd think it'd be like Las Vegas coming back over uh, Alaska there. I was like, I was pulling a blank right there. But really, with all that, it also sets the draft order for this next season, which Alaska comes in at 21st, no surprise at all. But the number one overall pick goes to St. Louis, who, although you could argue maybe had a kind of promising first couple of weeks, just kind of went away for the rest of the season. Followed up by Dallas, Oklahoma City, and Denver before we hit the London. So, in general, there, you get a lot of teams that didn't have a lot of success this season. Obviously, that's kind of how a draft works. And San Diego, I'm looking at the Pro Bowl teams here. St. Louis is going to be an interesting sort of bunch where you're gonna probably see them drafting some interesting players. Like, they lost Dylan Asil. He's now the co-GM over in San Fran, and now their quarterback, as opposed to the quarterback in St. Louis. So they might actually be on the market for a quarterback, which is good for all the 50 quintillion rookies listed themselves as quarterbacks, their primary position, and like the secondary being like running back. Yes, go for the two hardest positions to get in the SFL. That's how you do it. But with all that out of the way, boys, it's Pro Bowl time. And for once, I didn't get snubbed. Let's go. one of the prouder moments of my SFL career right there. But yeah, it's San Diego versus Miami. It's Mighty versus T-Pat. Really, the only two coaches who have ever gone a whole SFL season undefeated. T-Pat doing it in season 4. Let's not mention season 4. And Mighty, well, he just did it. Again, he completed it back on Monday. And so the draft has given us some rather intriguing teams. And with the Pro Bowl in general, it's kind of hard to strategize. It's just kind of given a hodgepodge, and you're told, go work with this. What sort of things do you think could really come out of these two bills? Like, Miami has both Shabazz and Jaye, the MVP and best running back of the league, along with the top quarterback. So there, it's going to be kind of hard to determine if you're going to run the ball or throw the ball. Along just in general, a very kind of weird setup. How do you think that these two teams are going to strategize with these sorts of team builds?
Just to say real quick, man. I'll let the others, chime in when they want. But I'm kind of interested to see what Quintez is able to do with all of these stars around him. He had a pretty good year with Houston, and I think that you kind of anticipate guys being in other systems, and it's going to be really interesting to see him in the system with Mighty, and to see what he's able to do with like literally like all the pieces you need to a team. But I'm kind of excited about about seeing that matchup there. On the other side of the ball, I see Miami with Christian Christensen. He's obviously a hell of a quarterback, and they got Jaye back there and Optimus Klein. So they got some real thugs, I like to call them. Ray Bentley would probably laugh at that one, But it's I'm kind of excited about seeing these players and potentially one of the greatest schemers, head coach, whatever you want to call them, as in Mighty versus T-Pat's team, who's no shade to him at all. So yeah, that's just a little bit of a take I have right now on it.
Yeah, but here's the thing too about you. You were talking about Quintez. I think that on San Diego, since Mighty's just more familiar with Ron Cochran, I think he's going to give Cochran more playing time here. But even then, that's more of a question mark because, Kent is a good quarterback. He's in the Pro Bowl for a reason. As
Right.
a rookie, too. The only quarterback to make it into the Pro Bowl as a rookie. So, great for him.
Right.
And, they have good targets thrown to as well. They have the likes of DR Sim, Ken Gossett, Chris Curtis, Siege Falco, and a couple other guys. They have a good team. So probably what you could say overall with at least San Diego, maybe they're gonna try and throw it out a bit more. Because even though I would say they have probably the weaker running system of the two, because they have Colin Hart and Ash Odom, while Miami's rocking Jai Aniola and Ray Bentley and Jason Williams. So I think really, although again, still it's all a bunch of question marks.
Yeah.
I would probably say San Diego's going to run a more pass type offense.
Yeah, this definitely is the grounds for a spread offense. As you said, you look at Giacomo and Chris Curtis, and Siege, and King Gossett out there, and then they got Big Tristan Carr, trash, you know. So this looks like a five wide spread, man. So I'm very interested to see what Mighty's going to do with these guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mighty in general, he you can tell by just the way he builds his teams. He likes passing the ball a bit more often than he does like running it. So I think that this is just kind of a Mighty offense. Sure, he's drafted those running backs, but that's just because you can't have a team of four running backs and a fullback. That's generally kind of uh, overcompensating there.
Right, right.
But I don't know. It's a very interesting system overall with what could be done with uh, these two teams around here in the Pro Bowl. But also on the defensive schemes, there's a lot of defensive people. Miami has probably what I would consider the stronger. They obviously have the stronger linebacking core with Slyn Shady, Aquanta Shine, and Jack Brown all on the same team, which makes you question why San Diego didn't pick up at least one of those three throughout that whole ordeal. But they do get Amon Tags out of it, and E.K. Vincent, Nick Fargo, and Avery King. That's their linebacking core. Although even though they have four, I would still argue that the Miami one is better because along with those big three, they have Blake Craze, who, sure, I don't consider him as big of a threat as Slyn, Jack, and Aquinas.
Craze had a big year, man.
Yeah, he's had a good year. I'm just saying, it's like,
Yeah.
those are Slyn, Aquantis, and Jack. Those are the top three tacklers in the entire SFL this past season.
Hey, look, Blake Crazy is he's one of those things that Indy got right this year. You know what I mean? Like, cause
Ooh, so now even you're tossing shade around here. I like
well, no, I'm just saying. I mean, they had a lot of ups and downs, and they kind of found a little bit of stride at the end, but Crazy, man, like he came in I think Commissioner Sandy came in like halfway through or something, end of the season, and made big waves, man, big splashes. So got to see what he does.
Yeah, but now ADPP and old Ramos here. Looking at these two teams in particular, Rob and I were just kind of talking about what sort of things we could be expecting. What would you generally more expect out of these two teams, especially the Bills and even just the coaches that they have?
Well, me personally, at least Miami's standpoint with T-Pat, I think that he will like to run the ball a little bit more. T-Pat has been a guy who, other than in season 4, where he went with that 100% passing attack offense, he's been a guy who likes to run the ball a lot. He had great running backs back in with the Minneapolis Ballers, and now with T-Roy Gaines, he was able to make wonders with them. So now he puts in on his lineup, he puts Ray Bentley. He puts in also the only fullback in this Pro Bowl, Jason Williams, and Mike Dax, who was, I'm not trying to be a homer, but he was probably the best blocking tight end this year in the SFL. So I'm expecting a lot of runs out of Miami. And to counter that, it's going to be important because San Diego, with Mighty, they like to run a 3-4 defense. At least Alaska ran a 3-4 defense. And now, I mean, they put in Alex Dominguez, so that was no surprise. And they have vets that group of linebackers. They have Nick Fargo, they have E.K. Benson, and them boys, so they can stop the run. So I think that Miami will try to run the ball a little bit more. Um, Obviously, they can throw it if they want because Christian Christensen and Last Synergy are two great quarterbacks, and they have Optimus Klein and James Hands, and obviously Mike Osai. Um, so we might see a lot of Shabazz synergy to Mike Osai's connections because they've done it for the entire season in an incredible manner. So I think that overall, if I have to put both teams, I might like Miami's build a little bit more than I like San Diego's. I love San Diego's. I mean, it's great. I mean, they have better players. They have guys like Eddie Gage and Maurice Spurgeon. They have Ken Goss. They've been here for a while. D.R. Sim is a Hall of Famer, so I really like that.
Hey,
But
wait, is that my shirt?
Miami,
No.
I
No,
think
you gave
has
this.
just a little bit more. The corners, I love Major Key, Pat Ketza, ball hawking corners. San Diego, I mean, obviously they have America Therapy, Jay Armstrong, who I really like, but I will give the edge to Miami on that regard as well. So overall, I like Miami's team just a tad more. And just not to upset Rob Roby, I will mention it. Cass McFly is in San Diego, so
Yeah.
he's really really good. But overall, I still think that Miami. Uh, I just like the build more. I'm not saying it's better than the other. I just think that with the fullback, the capacity to run the ball against the San Diego team could be important.
Yeah. Hey, Jack, something I'm seeing too, man, is this is I don't know, I could just be reading too much into this, but it looks to me like Mighty is trying to basically shut down the quarterbacks uh for Miami. It's kind of like if you look at the defense here, it's like he has like he has the best D line. He's probably gonna run. I don't know. He might run a 3-4. If he runs a 3-4, I think that he is safe with blitzing one of the cornerbacks every single time uh, against these quarterbacks here. So I'll be on the lookout for that, as well. The pressure that he may be able to get against Christian Christensen and definitely against Shabazz, who there's a lot of controversy around him being selected and stuff. And so that'll be a very interesting game to see the number one in terms of stats quarterback going up against this defense here, where you can easily just run a 3-4, four of the best linebackers. You got Kaz out there to shut down corner. You got Max Jackson over top. You got Eddie Gage over top. I mean, he could just literally just blitz a Terra or whoever. You could just blitz all day, and so it'll be very interesting just to see what he decides to do with this team here.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we move it into just general offseason rookie stuff, ADPP, kind of looking into this match in particular, and especially since you and I are on the same team, how would you sort of break this down, especially more on like the defensive end of things?
The defensive end of things, I'd actually agree a little bit with Rob there on San Diego is going to possibly try to look to shut down the passing games. I mean, I know we're talking about defense, it's kind of focused there, but you look at the Miami team and they look like they're going to be more run oriented. If San Diego is going to be able to jump out early, I'm not sure Miami, even though I'm on it, is going to be able to get back into the game easily. I know they have last season's season 10's MVP and Christian Christensen, and then they had season 9's Rookie of the Year candidate in Shabazz Energy, also back there in the back at quarterback. But when you look at it compared to the other two quarterbacks that are on San Diego, Kentez and Ron Cochran, they both of them were really efficient with the ball throughout this season. Kentez was, I believe, second or third in QBR for the entire season, and Ron Cochran, I believe, was the number one for the entire season. It's gonna be a little weird for me to be covering my former owner and DR Sim. Um, possibly trying to pick off the rookie quarterback that I helped draft this last season. But looking at the defenses, I could see Miami really kind of doing well, shutting down the run with the linebacking core that we got. You mentioned it earlier with Jack Brown, Aquanta Shine, and Slim Shady, Blake Craze, and the free safeties there also. Aaron Lee, Mahmoud coming down. Giovanni Bolt can be the ball hawking safety that he was a lot of this season. I can't remember. I believe he led the league in interceptions this season. AJ Levy back there as well. So we do have a decent secondary as well. But I feel that our focus might be more to be kind of shut down the run game and force them to beat us through the air on defense. On the San Diego side, I can see where Rob's coming from on trying to shut down the passing game of Miami. I mean, Kaz McFly back there. You got Jeffrey Daggs, who's another prolific free safety. Oscar Dunkley, who had a 4 interception game earlier this season against London in Week 2. You also have the America Itera. You also got 2 Scoops, Eddie Gage back there at strong safety. BJ Armstrong. So they have a really really good secondary as well. I mean, I can't say that.
Wait, you were mentioning Ryan?
What?
Were you mentioning the secondary and you did not mention the all glorious Cass McFly?
Oh no, he was the first name I mentioned.
Yeah.
Oh, there goes my brain, everybody.
But no,
Look,
so,
I had 2 tests there. Hey, everybody.
And you also have the kick returner extraordinaire this season in Max Jackson. So I feel like there's a little bit of a play at possibly getting some special teams plays in here with Max Jackson. You can't go into the Pro Bowl and say that one of these teams is just garbage. I mean, these are some of the best players in the league, and they're voted in for one reason, whether it be or stats or be it popularity. I'm not sure which one you would rather take the pick of. But the defenses I feel are going to come to ball pretty well. I'm thinking it's going to be. Last season we had a big blowout with Team Ramos beating Team Destro, and I'm hoping that Ray Bentley doesn't have a similar performance as he had last season in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, because that impact our team.
I'm also hoping Mike Daggs kind of cleans up his game as well. The two of them are now on the same team again, but this time on my team. So let's clean it up, boys. But I feel it's going to be a pretty good defensive game. Honestly, in these kind of things, especially with now that we also have some other coaches other than just Mighty and T-Pat, we have Ethan Kai doing the defensive coordination on Miami for T-Pat, and Johnny Savage over in San Diego for Mighty. I don't remember off the top of my head who the offensive coaches are. I believe LB Allen is one of them. And I can't think of the fourth coach, and I apologize for whoever it is off the top of my head. But I'm thinking that it's going to be more of a defensive game. It could easily turn into a shootout, really high scoring affair, but I don't think it's going to be like that.
Yeah. But of course, after what happened last season, you never know what could happen. We could have another Georgia Tech versus Cumberland for all we know, which would be an interesting test to see if APF has the same 255-point score limit as EA football games do.
We're gonna break some things, boys. We're gonna break some things.
Oh,
we're gonna break the game, but hey, it's okay. If the game can't count it, well, we don't use the game. We use our counter.
Yeah.
And the final score is the Miami 4,837, San Diego 4,836. Yes, I am predicting the scores to be that accurate, everybody.
Oh my goodness.
Look, have I ever been wrong on my picks? Actually, wait, redact that. I don't make picks on the show.
I was gonna say, I don't know what you're talking about. No one named Jack picks in this show.
Yeah, but I am the pickmaster general of the SFL, so you better.
So guys, who has the better linebacker core here? Ramos, who has the better linebacker core here? What do you think?
Oh man, I have. If I have to be at home, no, honestly, I will go with Miami.
Miami.
Uh,
Okay.
Good.
honestly, I will go with Miami. I like the speed on that linebacking core. Lynn Shady,
Yeah.
Quentin Shine, and Jack Brown. Quentin Shine, like low key, it seems that he is always top three in tackles since like
Hmm.
3 years ago. So Lynn Shady was in the Pro Bowl last season as well, and Jack Brown racked up the tackles now that Landon Mack was not here for season 11.
Hmm.
So I'll go with Miami. This is not a you know takedown on San Diego. I mean the linebacking
Yeah.
core is great. I love Avery King. I've loved Avery King since like season 7, whenever he came in,
Hmm.
when he was with the Carolina Skyhawks, and E.K. Vincent, a great linebacker as well. They have
Hmm.
Amon Takes, who was probably my favorite defensive rookie this season.
Hmm.
But yeah, I will go with Miami on this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I had
Alrighty.
overlooked earlier. Overlooked some of the picks that Miami had. But that linebacker core is vicious on Miami. So that'll be very interesting to see Colin and Ash Odom go up against that front.
Yeah. Yeah, but now we gotta turn our we must turn our heads, everybody, toward the rookies. Now, Ryan, I hear there's some pretty big coming out concerning rookies on Friday.
Yes, this week, now that we have finished the fourth week of rookie check-ins, we now have actually a group of rookies that now have value accrued after their check-ins, and bits have given them enough of their check-ins basically done. Uh, Last season we had 12 check-ins. This season we only have 8. We did require the 4 weeks at least to be able to accrue any value into it. So starting into this week on Friday, I will be releasing my initial rookie big board for this offseason for the draft. For those of the rookies that haven't seen it or haven't really heard of it before, basically all this is I put down a ranking system of who I feel are the top prospects in the draft, the top 21, or I guess in this case you could call it the first round of the draft, which this case is the only round of the draft unless we have a big influx of people come in between now and then and can accrue value. Um, they get little summaries that I write up for them and how basically I feel that they're doing during the off season here. Um, an example would be basically Cody Hill last season. I had him ranked as the number one prospect. His chat ranking was almost always in the top 10. Um, he had all of his bits in, and he was obviously super active in the chat. He was a constant figure inside the Discord, and so he was up there at number one. Um, just remember that all of the rankings that I put out there are all subjective. I mean, this is just my opinion on it. It doesn't reflect anybody on the league. It doesn't reflect anyone else's opinions on it. And it's not necessarily where you're going to be drafted, honestly. Cody Hill, I had him at number one. He ended up not being drafted until number 9 over in Vancouver, while Xander Gold, who was number 2, ended up going number 1 overall. Um, so it's just basically it's a nice little fun thing to go into here. I base all my check-in stuff off of the end of the week, so it'll be Wednesday for the check-ins. So Wednesday morning basically is when I take down all of the chat rankings and I take down all of the bits and everything that have been done. I'll compile the list and then I'll just kind of throw it all together and then I'll put it out there for everyone to look at on the website. So keep an eye out there. We'll definitely be posting on it in SFL alerts when we put it up, and it's something that's a really good conversation starter once we kind of get during the off season here. And I, I've noticed a few people already kind of being stuck on where they're going to be drafted number wise or where they are chat ranking wise. The biggest thing I could say is just enjoy the ride, guys. You really like you you don't want to get too stuck on where you're getting drafted. Where you're getting drafted, I said it last week during the podcast also, is not indicative of the value you're going to be getting in the contract. Last drafts we had Chicago in the first round draft. I believe the player was Jesse Vick, who was a cornerback, and he was a copper value, and I think the pick was either 5 or 7 or something overall. So it depending on where you're going to go is really going to go what your value is going to be, not where you're going in the draft, but what team you're going to basically. But this is just a nice fun thing that everyone can kind of discuss on, and a little bit of trash talking is all right with it because, oh look, I'm ranked higher than you and blah 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 blah. But we all know that's coming anyway, so I don't even have to put it out there really.
Yeah. And just to kind of piggyback off what Ryan's saying also is that just for those rookies who may be listening right now, like when I came in, I was a free agent. I came in like week 3 or week 4, and I had like 112, 113 value. And it was like such a big deal for me. I was like, oh man, I'm going to be like the number 2 rated quarterback ever, and the truth is that, your build means absolutely nothing if, the team that you're going to is not, scheming right,
especially when the team you're going to is San Francisco.
And anyway, no comment there, sir. So it means absolutely nothing, guys. Like, so you really just want to make sure that you're being yourself and not trying to, fake like you're someone else. Halloween is over. And
looking at you, Chris Braun.
And 2, just keep it open. Just keep open about various positions and teams and make contact with, owners and coaches and stuff. I mean, the guys will tell you, like, I sent like a letter to every single GM in the league, just saying my interests, what I wanted to do and such. And that just kind of helps with, your relations as far as going forward with the league and everything. And, just kind of making sure you're a community guy. So don't get caught up, like Ryan said, don't get caught up on those values, man. Trust me, man. Those go way out the door week 1. Yeah, that's all. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, really, honestly, I would say get hung up really on nothing. Like, sure, have your preferences for everything. Have the preferences for the team. Have the preferences even on position. But I think when each and every one of us came in, for the most part, we didn't have like the exact idea of I want to do this, this, and this. When I came in, we probably just thought, oh, I might become a player. Maybe I'll do this, this, and this. I mean, sure, the more solid foundation is going to assert itself as the weeks go on. Then you might say, okay, I might want to do this next season or that next season, or whatever. But, just let it come to you as it comes. I mean, there are people out there and they're rookies who are really like showing they want to do a lot more in this league. Like even just a guy like Johnny Savage, he's becoming an assistant coach for the Pro Bowl, and technically he's making the Pro Bowl without playing a single game of SFL football.
Right.
That's a show of initiation right there, and it's gonna be an interesting test to see of his skills in I guess you could say, medium pressure game in a way. I think that'd be the right amount of pressure.
Yeah. Yeah.
For him, for a guy trying to prove himself into it, I think he's going to feel a little more pressure. As for like the other coaches, I don't feel they're going to have as much pressure on them as he is.
Yeah, but I think like in general, like it's not going to be something that impacts anybody's record. It's just a little scrimmage. Sure, it's going to be a scrimmage on the front page, which, to my knowledge, but as long as he doesn't get a 40 burger hung on him, he should be at least somewhat fine. I think I told him that. I think in SFL Chatter Off Topics Day, which shows how great the SFL boards are when we go on topic and off topic in SFL chat. Welcome to the SFL, everybody. Ryan does his best.
Mm-hmm.
Jack is being bashful right now. Savage, if you do not win, you are going to be the meme of the century. Just as Kentez was.
I want you to go back to the preseason and look at Kentez. Right. Your punishment shall be double.
Kentez came in. He was like, "Oh, I'm the best quarterback ever. I'm going to win a championship before a championship." And he was all this stuff, and he gets injured week 1, and then he has to suffer all year. So
no, your punishment for your ego will be Kentez plus Dylan plus Pee Wee. We're gonna wrap them all up into one. That's new policy I'm implementing here in the SFL.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Well, hey, I don't have any power to do it, so that's fine by me.
True.
But you do, so better get on it there, buddy.
I plead the fifth here. I'm not trying to lose my job here, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Not yet, anyway.
Well,
But now getting into the actual rooks themselves, just doing a brief little analysis of them. Apart from Johnny, who I think we could say for the most part, at the current moment at least. Now we don't know what's going to happen in the next 4 weeks, but at the current moment, he is seeming like he could go pretty high in draft. But who are some of the other guys who could really uh, just shoot up the draft board up until like the top 10 or top 5?
um, you have one of the former veterans who's retired one of his players, in Moody Mitchell, the former player of Mahmoud Al-Jalauni. Um, he's up there really well in. He has all of his bits cheered. He's up there in the top 10. He's actually right at number 10 for his chat ranking, so he's already up there. But there are some other ones. They've got their check-ins, they've got their bits. Um, one of them in particular I see we have is Kyle Kruger. He's chat rank 79, so he's just on the outside looking in on, I want to say, the max silver value, which I think was at 75. Um, he, he's right on that cusp of it. Other ones you have Zach Sandlin. He's looking to play linebacker. He's got all of his bits and all of his check-ins done. He's at chat rank 27. Rich Pratchard, chat rank 99, all bits and everything cheered. Uh, but then there's a couple that are actually, they have bits cheered and their chat ranking is just a little bit too low. And it really just bringing those up would put them in. For instance, there's one out there. His name's Steven Hacker. He has his 400 bits cheered for the 4 weeks, but his chat ranking's down there at about 127. So he needs to kind of bump that up a little bit to be able to help improve his draft stock. And um, basically, what it comes down to is he bumps that up, he could very easily just skyrocket up the board. Um, and I mean, there's quite a few guys. We have about 3 or 4 of them that are up in the top 15. We have about another 5 or 6 of them that are up in about the top 40, and then the other ones are kind of scattered right around the 60s and 70s, a little bit lower area. So there can be a lot of moving and shaking within these 4 weeks of the last few check-ins, leading up to the draft and the rookie showcase. So it's going to be interesting for me to be able to kind of figure out exactly who I'm going to put where on every given week. Hopefully, I can kind of keep it as consistent as possible here. So we'll see how it goes though.
Yeah, that's in general going to be an interesting thing to look at when it does get dropped. If I'm to take my look at the rookie class of season 12, yeah, I would for the most part agree with you there. There's a lot of guys out there who, they're getting their bits cheered, they're getting their chat rank up. There's also the concern of, is the positions that they're going for actually going to be draft viable? Like, there's some people in there at the current moment who I don't know if what they're doing is going to be beneficial. Like guys like I'm trying to think here exactly. Um, I was going to say like Justice Jones for example, or Justin Jones for example. He's a rookie. He's gotten all his bits shared, and I think for the most part, but he wants to go as a halfback. Halfback is probably the position in the SFL with the least amount of turnover overall. So it's going to be really hard to try and bust into that sort of situation unless you have a team that didn't run a halfback last season, which there were a couple, and trying to get onto teams like that. But I mean, really, it's I guess that kind of comes into the territory of just knowing where you are, then aiming for that. So if you have a lower chat rank, maybe aim for some more defensive, since defensive players are a lot less in demand. Like there's a lot less people out there who say when they send in their introduction message, I want to be a linebacker.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys in there who say, I want to be a quarterback, maybe a wide receiver.
Yeah. So just a little interesting thing here. It looks like we have about 9 guys that want to be a quarterback, and And looking at it, you're only going to have probably one or two on each team during the rookie showcase, where each person's going to get probably a half of work, which at the moment, out of the 9, there are 3 of them that aren't going to really have any value at the moment because they haven't completed their check-ins. But
or other reasons.
or other reasons. Other ones you have running back. We have about another eight guys that want to be running backs. However, their secondary positions are all over the board. So I mean that's good for them if they're not able to get running back. They do have a kind of a fallback on it. Um, the one I will say that surprises me out of a lot of these guys, and unfortunately, I find it really unfortunate that literally every single one of this position group has no one of value that they're considered for their primary position, and that's tight end. We actually had 5 rookies as their primary preferred position was a tight end, and only one of them has actually checked in with 100 bits out of all 5 of them.
Jimbo Skaggs.
Yep, that Jimbo Skaggs, and that was just recently. So I'm hoping that he's able to kind of turn it around and kind of get himself up there and possibly find himself a nice home. Because tight end has been shown that we are actually able to use very effectively in the SFL. Um, I mean, Ramos alluded to it earlier. Mike Daggs is a nice, one of the better not pass blocking, run blocking tight ends in the league. But then you have other ones like Yassine Clifton and Cody Scott who are just very good at receiving as a tight end. So they're able to rack up those yards and be those kind of third down guys that can help you convert those third downs into first downs. Another one that really is going to need to work on for some guys is we have a lot. I want to say it's about 12 guys that say they want to be a wide receiver, and if then we have another 3 out of those that want to say they want to be a cornerback after if they can't be a wide receiver. Um, a lot of these guys, there's only out of all 12 of these guys, we only have about 3. We have 2 that actually have value right now, and we only have 3 that don't. And we have only 1 out of those guys, the remaining guys that actually has a chance at value. And so it's gonna be a close call for a lot of these. Like we have a lot of positions that have a lot of people that they want to have in here, but then they just haven't been able to keep up on their check-ins, or they checked in the one time when they first joined and they just straight up disappeared after that. So hopefully we get a couple guys to come back here and it'll really kind of kick the draft off. But right now it's not looking super promising for this draft. We right now it's actually pushing to the point where we might not even get a full round. Um, but it's close. But right now we have just barely enough.
Yeah, and you never know. There are people who join mid off season. There are people who drop.
Yep.
I mean, hopefully things are saying we get like at least 25-ish prospects. Would probably be a hopeful goal of like of rookies with actually like good value that are like draft worthy, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I believe right now, if it continues the direction it's going, we'll have about 26 by the time the draft rolls around.
Yeah, so I think really 25 to 30 would be about like 30 would be like a very optimistic goal, but somewhere between the 25 and 30 range would probably be my projection for the amount of rookies with value. I mean, there have been people who've thrown their hats into the ring. I think if you were to do that calculation, I think it comes out to like 40 or 45-ish, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And then also at the same time, we can't forget about the owner players that are rookies this season as well. You have the Leonidas Richards, Max Forrest,
Owner player
Aaron DeHood. So and then or Han Tayumi. So
Ramos, you weeb.
So, but those I haven't really included in the draft, but they are ones that still do require the check-ins. But right now, just so the rookies do know, when it comes down to the rookie showcase, basically what is going to happen is we're going to take your primary position, and then we're going to take it and put your primary position with the others and basically get them all together, like all quarterbacks' primary positions in one thing. And then we're gonna take the ones that have the highest value, possible value, and that's the person that's gonna get the number one spot. And then it goes down the line. And so if you're seeing that there's a lot of people that are higher than you, and you want to have a chance at another position, you're more than welcome to change your position from week to week, up until the draft basically, or up until the showcase. Um, and that's one thing that I don't know if a lot of these guys remember. So like one team uh, we have a quarterback, a running back, we have two receivers on one team and one receiver on the other team, and then we have two defensive linemen on one team and one defensive lineman on the other team, and that just goes back to basically they go back and forth, and we have to just kind of mix and match as best we can, but with so many people trying to take the same positions, it's not easy.
Yeah, so I mean, even if you want to be a quarterback, kind of understand that, there it's the same thing with kind of picking your college. You can try and get into like, your Harvard, your Michigans, your whatever. But those are schools where you're just gonna be one little fish in the big pond, and honestly, whoever has the power there, those universities where you're competing for that position, they can essentially just toy you around. They're the ones with the power in it. Meanwhile, if you have a bit more of an under uh, requested um, position, like say tight end,
Yep.
you can actually have the power in that situation over owners who have like you could essentially say you have three owners approach you because they need a tight end and you're the only tight end. Guess what? You can essentially have those owners in a race to get you, and you can kind of toy around with them.
Yeah.
Say like, oh, like say like we have like Dion, Dr. Sim, and Ramos in a battle for Smitty, Orbit, Smitty could could say to Ramos, "Hey, Dion and Dr. are giving me this value. What value are you going to give me, and what can you promise me?"
Yeah.
Then Ramos could say, I can't give you anything. Yeah, I'm bound out of this, bang." And then
Yeah.
you can just essentially like college recruiting.
So, I do want to bring something up, and Ramos, you can very easily chime in on this as well. I saw earlier today in the SFL chat that we had one of the rookies kind of talk about how he would hate to become a kicker. And actually,
Hmm.
I'm gonna put you on the spot here, Ramos. How many games do you think that you've won specifically because Cole Varner's been on your roster?
Oh wow. At least this season alone, at least five.
Yeah, I was gonna say it had to be at
And
least 4 or 5 games.
yeah, this season alone, at least 4 or 5. And overall, I will say a good probably 10 to 12 games. Because here's the thing, and people say, hey, kicker is not a glamorous position. Listen, honestly, and I commented this, and even Mighty agree with me. Kicker is technically the best position you can get in the SFL because the possibility of messing up is like close to none. Like kickers are almost automatic here in the SFL. Like as a quarterback, you throw a lot of picks. Running back, fumbles are not very often, but as a you might not have a very good game where you run 20 carries and get only 30 yards.
Yeah.
Wide receiver, you can drop the ball or you can get shut down by a corner. Corner can get beat uh, 5 times a game for a touchdown. Linebackers can break, miss tackles and whatnot. So, the only position where there's almost no chance to bust is kicker. It's like you're a kicker, you have a 42-yard field goal, it's pretty much money
Yep.
and you can help your team win a lot of games. You can you can score a lot of points. I mean, I think the kicker is probably the best position to play in the SFL. It's not
Yeah,
glamorous. You're not gonna be on the field 30 minutes, but you know, overall, it's just a position where you're gonna 99% of the time do the correct thing.
Yeah. And
yeah, and
go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, and I was gonna say like, and for the plays that you are on, which sure they may not be that many. Think about it like this: when the field goal unit goes out in say like the NFL, how many players that are on that field of the 22 can you name? Probably one, maybe two, depending on who the holder is.
Yep.
Because some teams have like their starting QB as their holder or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
But really, on like field goals, you're the only one who most people really care about, unless it's a block. Which, if your team has a star kicker, the chances of that happening are really low. I wouldn't say they're astronomically low, but you're probably not going to get blocked most of the time.
Yeah, and really,
So,
I just wanted to bring it up because I mean, sure, it's not a glory position like Ramos was saying, but it is a very important position, even in the game in the NFL. I mean, you had one week where I mean, I know we're getting kind of off topic of SFL, but Mason Crosby missed 5 field goals in one game. He would have made those field goals, the Packers end up winning that game. I mean, legitimately, they would have won by like 1 point. And
in the game against the Lions,
yes.
well, hey, I ain't complaining.
Well, yeah, I know you're not complaining. I'm not really either, but I know there's a few guys that would have something to say about that now that I brought it up, and I'm probably gonna hear about it.
Cam's gonna call us for a meeting. It's like,
Oh gosh, I
Ryan,
forgot Cam. Darn it.
Ryan, you've upset me. He just like comes in on the face
Yeah,
cam, like his
so
little cheese head on.
yeah, but I mean, really coming down to it, it may not be a glory position, but is without a doubt one of at least top 3 most important positions on any football team. And I know that there's teams that will live and die by not having a special teams player, punter or kicker. Um, and I think part of that goes to the fact that we have a limited amount of space, with only being able to have 12 star players. But as the league expands and gets bigger, we want to have those people that will fill those roles. And it's something that I want a couple of rookies to think about is although it's not a glory position, it is definitely an important position, and we have seen in the last few seasons an increase in a number of kickers that have been used. Um, and even punters, we've had a couple teams that did a punter, and really a star punter could really change the field position battle by about 20, 30 yards at a time, in any given game. So it's just something to keep your minds open on. And although you may not like to be a kicker, I know Kentez was one of those people that last off season. I mean, we keep bringing him up because kind of the memes and everything. And he was kind of a meme where people were trying to say they're going to make him a kicker instead of a quarterback. I mean, obviously that didn't happen, but it's just something to keep open mind to, basically. Don't get set specifically on a position. Be, as Bruce Lee would say, be like water. Um, you pour water into a cup,
Mhm.
it becomes the cup. I mean, that's basically the saying he would
Praise
say.
be to the Dow.
So, basically what it means is you got to be free flowing. You got to be malleable, basically, malleable. I can't say the word. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's just you got to be free flowing, free forming, roll with the punches type thing. If your team is wanting to draft you as a kicker, you may not be up too happy with it. And sure, you can let your voice be heard about it. But in the end of the day, I feel that if you're wanting to help your team the most, you'll definitely put some thought into it. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, when I first joined the league, I originally wanted to be a free safety, and that's what I was completely set on originally. And then as I talked to Demond, or Dr. Sim, as a lot of people know him as, um, me and him talked for a while, and he already had free safety set up with Blake Chance and a strong safety and Eddie Gage. He's like, but I do have a cornerback position available, and I was like, well, all right, let me still look around a little bit, but I'm still definitely interested, and that's where I ended up going, was Houston as a cornerback. And it was, although it wasn't my preferred position, I gave it my best effort, and I mean, in if the story that got released earlier today was that I wrote of my SFL journey, kind of chronicles the whole thing. But basically, is you take what you're given for if for what you're given, and you just gotta make the best with it. Just do best as you can. And if it's not one of your favorite positions, there are positions that can be interchangeable where you can move from one position to another. And it was kind of a funny thing. I'm not sure where I read it at, but there were people talking about Alex Dominguez with the size that he is, and since he is only 6'2". If he actually dropped 90 pounds over 5 seasons, he could become a cornerback. And
You hear that,
so,
Mighty? Stop feeding him the McRibs.
so it's just one of those things where it's basically like
Turkey gobblers.
it's just craziness. Like you can take a defensive lineman and basically transition them over several seasons straight to a cornerback. You can take a wide receiver and move them over to tight end. You can take just all those kind of different positions. So keep an open mind about it. I'm like, it may not be your favorite position, and the power is in the player's hands basically. So you can have a player not really too happy with the fact that he had to play, let's say, a free safety because he wanted to play linebacker or something. Well, the next season, you don't have to re-sign with your team. I mean, I'm sure the current team would appreciate it if you did, but you don't have to. The power is in your hands, and if you can find another team that will take you at the position you wanted, you are more than welcome to be able to switch over to that team during the off season.
And even then, like, if absolutely nothing works out, you can always hit the restart button.
Yeah,
There's
you can always basically, I know the restart button. It's been done a few times the last few seasons with some people basically retiring their player and then starting from scratch as a new rookie and building up value again. Um, and it's something that's definitely there and just go into it with an open mind. Don't be set on going to a specific team because you may not end up at that specific team again.
yeah.
So,
But yeah, and really, I think with that, I think we've gone on long
well,
enough.
yeah, we've hit almost an hour.
Go us! I was trying to think about how we filled up 20 minutes.
Yeah, I was
Man.
thinking the same thing earlier. I was like, I don't know what else we can talk about. And I was like, maybe 30 minutes. And I'm like, oh, it's been 55 minutes now. Okay, we should do this. We should finish this up.
This is the round table, okay? Come on. Anyways, with that, thanks for tuning into the SFL Podcast this week, presented to you exclusively by APM Music through the power of YouTube. I am your host, Jack Brown, and alongside Ryan Karpinski, Ramos Lynn, and Rob Roby of the Roundtable, we say thank you and have a great weekend full of, well, I guess now it's college and NFL football.